Okay, time to talk about the greatest football league in the world. Not the Trinidad and Tobago Premier Football League. All right, we got matches coming up this Thursday. Yes, this Thursday, not on the weekend, probably because of Easter weekend and so on. And got some very interesting encounters. Before we talk about that, I just want to say a few people have reached out to me on the internet and say thank you for the Ttpfl page and what you're doing with these reports. Not a problem. Yeah, people like myself and others do it because we just love Trinidad sport, we love Trinidad football, and we fill a void. If there was no void, we wouldn't do it. Not knocking everybody else, but we're able to take advantage of social media. 30, 40 years ago, I had to hope living abroad, I could get a Trinidad Express or Guardian and read, or somebody would tell me something on the phone. Now we have the internet, now we have social media, and we can really, really mitigate any lack of information and so on. I did not want to set up a PFL page on Facebook, but the official page had such a void going on and such an activity. I did it out of frustration in the hope that others like myself who have a passion for TNT football will get together and exchange ideas and commentaries and just enjoy the page. And that's what it's done. The first month, March 2023, I had 30 members. I would have been happy to get 200, 300. 2 years later, March of this year, I had over 2,300 members. And by next week, I should have 2,400 members. So obviously, there are people out there, Trini and non-Trini, who do have an interest in TNT football and the PFL. I also, it would be remiss of me if I didn't mention Wave TV. I was coming down the stairs on Saturday to watch the football. I had the channel set up on my TV, YouTube, and I saw an ad for my book, and I was like, but this thing must have flipped channels onto another YouTube channel that I have because I thought I had this on Wave. So I'm going there trying to change the channel, and I realized it was Wave. Wave decided to surprise me and say nothing and advertise my book. I have an advertisement. They used it, and it looked very nice on the big screen. So for those of you who may be watching Wave TV, you will see my ad at some point. I hope. I don't know if they'll show it in the future. That's up to them. But I do want to thank Wave TV for that. So while we're at it, here it is. No, I don't work in the kitchen. Surviving war torn Afghanistan for 3 years was #1 on Amazon for quite a few weeks around April of 2021 when it was released. Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, a couple hundred platforms on the net, and any bookstore will order it for you in Trinidad or any country that you're in. So thanks, Wave. Appreciated that. Didn't expect it. So yes, as I was saying, we do this for the love of football, and it's not just me. A quick mention to this Journey with the Thornhills on YouTube. It's a channel by a Trini, last name of Thornhill, and he does a lot of features on TNT football. He does interviews, and it's very informative. Scully loves football. You can find him on Facebook. Again, Scully loves football. Um, again, he gives you reports on TNT football, and lately he's been doing interviews. In the last 2 weeks or three, he's interviewed the likes of Levi Garcia, Judah Garcia, Nathaniel James. So if you're into Trinidad football, you might want to pay attention to these people. They've been doing their fair bit for Trinidad and Tobago football. We do it because we love it. All right. I ain't get no money. I don't know if anybody else get the money. I ain't get no money. But anyway, let's talk now about this week's games. It's on Thursday. We've got 6 matches. Okay. And I'm going to start with, let me tell you, boy, I try to understand these people, the PFL. Okay, on Thursday, everybody's playing. Fair enough. You have AC Port of Spain versus Defense Force in the East Atla Hockita grounds. AC Port of Spain and Defense Force are two Port of Spain teams. They both list Hazley Crawford as their home stadium. I don't know if this is true, but this is what they list it as. I was told once that AC Port of Spain, okay, because it's former Northeast Stars, they're called AC Port of Spain, but their home ground is in Arima, which makes even more sense, right? But anyway, two Port of Spain teams. Because if you name Port of Spain, you want your name, put your ground in Arima, right? Because that makes sense. I hope that was just a joke and the person didn't know what they were talking about. But you would want to think two Port of Spain teams would play in Port of Spain. No, but on the same day, at the same time, you got in Port of Spain, Sawa versus Presence, two Eastern country clubs playing in Port of Spain. So you have a Port of Spain derby happening in the East, and at the same time, an Eastern derby happening in Port of Spain. Help that make sense now. Make that make sense. All you had to do was switch both games, the same time, same day, but the Port of Spain people would play in Port of Spain, and the Eastern people would play in the East. So, if I was from Samoa, you're telling me on a Thursday night, I have to go and watch football at 7 p.m. in Port of Spain between two Eastern teams and then drive home at 9. Worse yet, take public transit at 9 to go and get up for work the next day. You can understand why that would piss some people off, and you can understand why that would mitigate crowd attendance. All right. This is just the third season of the PFL. Let me breathe. Okay, let us continue. So on Thursday, let's look at it. At the La Joquita grounds, we have Rangers versus Police. Um, Most people would want to go with Police. Police are presently in fourth position, but Rangers is not a bad team. They have always played a decent brand, even when they get beaten. They recently shocked Defense Force 2-all. Um, they were 2 down early in the game. Everybody thought it was going to be a regular Defense Force victory. No, 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 no. Silly mistake by the Defense Force keeper, 2-1. Then a nice corner 2-all, and Rangers surprised a lot of people, and they could surprise Police. This game could go either way. It depends on Rangers. Which Rangers is showing up? The usual anticlimactic Rangers are the one that played against Defense Force. Second encounter, AC Port of Spain versus Defense Force. Well, there was a time when AC Port of Spain looked like a surety for second or third spot. Two things. They've sold off a lot of players, and since January, they have not played the same football. And then their last encounter, I believe it was against Central. Their last encounter, their players didn't show up because of a lack of payment. They were striking. Even if their players show up on this Thursday, what kind of psychological frame of mind will they be in to play football against the number one team in the country? It's tough. It's tough for AC Port of Spain, and AC Port of Spain has not won a match in their last 6 encounters. So they were always going to be a bit of an underdog in this match, and they'll be a bigger underdog. Now, I expect Defense Force to win. I don't expect them to slip up like they did against Rangers. They're mortal after all they do, but I would expect Defense Force to win, and I might expect by a 2-goal margin at least. You never know. AC Port of Spain might come out with some bad mind, but Defense Force on paper is the better team and has more depth. And as long as clubs like Port of Spain keep selling off players, they're always going to have this problem. Maybe they can't help it. Maybe it's money, but tough luck. All right, so over the at Bolton Stadium in Central, you got Phoenix versus Central, and then you got Caledonia versus Sando. Again, Phoenix in the last match was beaten. Not last match, sorry. They were beaten, I believe, 2-1 by Caledonia, and before that 3-0 by Prisons. And none of their matches were they outplayed. It was just a matter of finishing. Just a matter of finishing. And we'll say this, the Phoenix match versus Caledonia, that was just a matter of really the goalkeepers. It could have been a much bigger scoreline for both teams, but the two goalkeepers really did a fine job for their teams. Cali winning 2-1, and the Guyanese goalkeeper for Cali continuing to do a great job. So Phoenix versus Central, I expect Phoenix to put up a good performance, a strong performance, waiting for their moments to counter, but I expect them to get outplayed by Central and lose that match. Cali versus Sando, this is a very interesting matchup indeed. And why, you may ask, and the reason being Cali and Sando are in 6th and 7th spot respectively. So both these teams, if they win, could solidify that 6th spot and maybe challenge for the top 5 or 4. I have believed for the last 3 weeks that Cali is a dark horse for the top 4. I don't see them being in the top 3, but this is a good matchup on paper. Cali has a couple of foreign-based players. They've as I said, they've got the Guyanese goalkeeper, Sando. They've got Kerry Jameson in the midfield, even at his age, playing a wonderful position there in that position. Then you got Eagles versus Point. Well, Eagles has just struggled. If you look at their matches, sometimes for a few minutes they'll play well, but they can't sustain it. I think they don't have the depth and quality of the other teams. And well, Point ain't doing nothing amazing either. Both teams are languishing at the lower echelons of the standings. This is a game up in Port of Spain, so an eastern and a southern team meeting in Port of Spain. All right, so I will give the edge to Point. I think Point is doing all right. They got 2 players in particular, Jeremiah Niles and a fella called Ash. Don't know how to spell that, but I've heard it called Ash. Both played okay against Samoa recently. When Samoa played Point last weekend, I expected Samoa to eat them up down south. The truth is, Samoa played silly, left a lot of gaps in the back, and Point took advantage. And if Point could have finished better, they would have been leading about 2-0 in the first half. They hit the bar. It was 0-0 in the first half. Second half, Samoa played a little more intelligently, less space at the back. They beat Point 2-0. Again, Niles not a bad player. Ash not a bad player at all. Skillful and shields well. But Point versus Eagles, I'm going to give the edge to Point 4-10. And then you got Samoa Jablote versus Prisons. Prisons are a team I can't help but like. They are the lower end of the table, but they're not a bad side. Their standings does not begin to indicate what kind of side they are. Their score lines does not begin to indicate what kind of side they are. They're 10th or 12th. And I honestly believe that with the exception of Samoa Jablote and Defense Force, that Presence has a 50-50 shot with any club that they play. They're going to be playing Samoa. Well, I expect Samoa to win this one. I expect Presence to show some flashes of brilliance here and there, but in the end, I expect the overall quality of Samoa to take over. For Samoa, of course, you got the usual suspects: Zoom Zoom Lewis and what's the man name? Sween. And then, of course, for Presence, the two boys I like, I always bring up the names, Guerra and Jeremiah Vidal. Um, but for the rest of the seasons, with the exception of Samoa Defense Force, Presence has a 50-50 shot, and I'm looking at Presence maybe jumping 2 spots up in the league table. Doesn't sound like a big deal, but if you look at how they played in the first half of the season, it is a big deal. As I said, this is a club. Their scoreline and standings in the table does not indicate the kind of talented team that they are. They're a good side. They're not Defense Force, but they're a good side. Their last match, I believe they lost 3-0 to Police. Let me tell you something. They were in the match throughout the match. They were 1-0 down for most of it. Deep in the second half, they gave up a goal. I think it was a penalty. You'll have to forgive me. My memory is letting me down. They gave up a goal, and then they were jamming hard in injury time, probably trying to get a goal. Left too many gaps at the back. Police took full advantage of this and eventually scored and beat them 3-0. Again, the scoreline did not indicate the kind of competition that Prisons gave Police, and that the other side might be better, but Prisons has their moments when they play the opposition. Okay, so again, I picked Samoa to be the favorite on that one. Let's look at the standings and see where these teams line up and where they're going to go. Let's take a look here. As usual, Defense Force miles ahead of everyone else, and although mathematically it's possible, I don't think anybody's catching them. Central FC, well, second, third, close contest, and Police just there, a few points behind on fourth. I think Central and Samoa have a good chance of maintaining their positions after Thursday's match. Police, they must think they have a chance of the top three and a chance for some kind of Caribbean honors. They just got to keep fighting it. I continue to be surprised to see Police there. And I think part of the reason is ACPOS has been in fifth spot, has let themselves down. And it's not going to be any easier on Thursday when they play Defense Force. Right now, I got to go with Central and Samoa. I would still give Port of Spain the edge over Police if they can put it together. I assume they're not going to sell off any more players. But what frame of mind are their players in right now after having boycotted a game and not being paid? Nova Caledonia, solid dark horse for a top 4 position. They're not that far behind and they're doing reasonably well. That is why I'm really looking forward to the Cali Sandu contest on Thursday. It's 6th versus 7th. Whoever wins that gets a little further leg up in terms of hitting the top 5 and top 4. La Hoqueta, the best they can do is win some games for respect. I don't know if they can even hit the top 7 anymore, to be quite honest with you. Mathematically, they could do 7th, 6th, maybe even 5th, but I don't think they will. It's really a pity, a side that is much better than their standings indicate, and they keep sliding down every season. Phoenix, you gotta feel sorry for them. They've never played a home game this season, and they're just gonna have a tough season for the rest of the season. I just look forward to Phoenix giving us the odd surprise, like they did with the 1-1 draw versus Police at the Barracks. Presents my favorite underdog team, a team that is much better than this 10th position. I'm looking at them maybe hitting the top 8. And for Point and Eagles, they should be just bringing up the rear for the rest of this season. You could say maybe Point could make a little headway, and they could, but I don't see it happening. Point just does not seem to have the overall depth and class that some of the other teams have. And tough luck for Eagles. Look at that goal difference, minus 54. I saw Eagles play recently, and for a few minutes they'll play well here and there, but they can't sustain it. Sometimes they'll win a ball, good for them, and then they'll go and give it back. Again, they do not have the depth and quality of the other teams. But if you look at 76 Phoenix, if you look at Prisons, no, they don't have the depth either. But they play a strong, hard game, and they wait for their moments, and they try to counter. And they give the other teams a tough run. Even if they lose, they give the other teams a good run for their money. So, no, I do not see Eagles doing much this season, unfortunately. And it looks like it'll be a good weekend for Defense Force Central and Samoa to solidify their positions in those respective standings. And Police also has a decent shot against Rangers. I'm not going to say it's guaranteed. And so it looks like a good Thursday of football. So my favorite game will be Cali versus Sandu because of what's at stake and two reasonably contested teams. the Atto Bolden. AC Port of Spain versus Defence Force should be a decent game, but on paper, but no, I see Defence Force running away with that one, unfortunately. Let's see if AC Port of Spain can surprise me. And Samoa versus Prisons, again, Samoa should handle that, but I like the way Prisons gives a good fight for their money, you know, the underdog, the little engine that could. So if you're nearby at a ground, go support the PFL, help them make some money. Again, to Wave TV, thank you for what you're doing for the local football fans. For us out here abroad, you know, we got people not just from Trinidad and Tobago. I see South Africans, I see Latinos, I see Turks, people from Turkey tuning in to Wave TV to see what's happening. They get about 300 to 450 odd people at a time, and then they get 6,000, 12,000 hits after the game. So Wave TV doing their bit. Thank you. And let's hope to have a good weekend of football. Let's wish everyone a good luck. And let's hope that AC Port of Spain can solve their particular problems. Again, I'm Verison Bolai for Hail Carib-Sport. If you like, click like, share, subscribe, etc.